If you don't know where you come from, you will never find where you're going.
When Nigeria is working, we will all know.
PDP and us are diametrically opposed.
SaharaTV, let them be the TV, the best TV, information, education, inspiration. SaharaTV, let me die.
I am from SaharaTV. I'd like to ask you a few questions.
Information, education, inspiration. SaharaTV, they get mouth, they get mouth.
Get experts and professionals and people who know to come here and help us understand the issues in the news, especially as it concerns Nigeria. Today I have a special guest here with me in the studio, Paul Omoruyi. Paul, welcome to SaharaTV.
Thank you, Rudolf.
For those of you who do not know, Paul is one of these contributors that came to Sahara Reporters and he's been causing waves. And on Skype from Florida is Kole Odutola. Sorry, Kole, welcome to SaharaTV.
Thank you very much. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year, sir.
So, we are going to start our discussion with the party in government in Nigeria, the PDP.
Right.
In the last 1 week, they've been trying to elect somebody as the chairman of the board of trustees. And in the last 9 months, they've not had any since Obasanjo left.
Right.
And last 2 days, the president called them to Aso Rock and he was promising that he will make them to elect somebody, and he failed.
Right.
What's going on?
I don't know. I think this is just a clear indication that Jonathan has no control of the party, and it also shows that he lacks some leadership capability. I think when Obasanjo was there, we could see that it was slightly different. But again, it just shows that Jonathan has a lot of work to do, in my opinion.
Kole, PDP and their challenges of governing themselves. Before we talk about governing the country, what do you think is going on?
Well, I think one of his, I would like to just comment on the path, or something I've called the path to power. You will understand the internal democracy of the parties in Nigeria by also placing side by side the path to power of the participants and the main actors. Look at the way Obasanjo came to power. The path to power will determine their hold on power. Look at the way Jonathan came to power. His path to power was almost through the back door. It wasn't something that you couldn't say this is a guy that used some kind of wisdom or understanding to get to power. It was always, he was deputy to somebody, something happened and he became governor. He was vice president to somebody and that one died and he became president. So you can always look at all of the main actors in PDP. To understand party politics in Nigeria, you got to understand how each of the actors came to power. It is their path to power that will determine their hold on power and how they can use it. So what is happening in terms of internal democracy in PDP is that the way the party itself was formed, like President Obama advised them, we do not need big men in politics, but we need big and strong institutions. It's not been possible in the way the parties were formed and the way in which they govern themselves internally. The internal democracy, the democratic culture is not there. Everybody uses their position and their power block and what they brought to the party when it was being formed. Obasanjo is using the fact that he had dispensed a lot of favors and they had created cronies. These cronies still behold to him, and he still has that hold. Jonathan hasn't been able to do that. The people he has dispensed power to are the militants. The militants are outside of him PDP. If you look at and then the latest Sahara report brought out that he's giving 1 billion to the Yaradua family. I don't know how strong that is. He needs to use a little bit of common sense and understand that the politics is also about dispensing favors, and you don't dispense favors to idiots that will not come back and help you. Abdullah called it IOU. There is a political IOU that once you give to somebody, you can cash it. You don't give a social IOU and expect to cash it as a political IOU. These things do not work that way at all. So what you're saying, first you've got to understand it on the basis of how did these individuals and these male actors, how did they get to power? How they got to power determines how they use the power, how they play with the power, and how they can interact with each other. So it's a very big party on what do you call these bedfellows? When these folks do not agree with each other, they do not come with any ideology. Or the ideology of PDP is, what am I going to grab from the party, or what am I going to grab from the nation? Nothing else. There's nothing altruistic. There's nobody who wants to work. I don't know anybody. Maybe there is a tiny progressive group there, but there will be slaughter very soon.
Okay, let me ask you, Paul. What are the implications? What we're seeing, implications for 2015. Does it show that the party has a kind of cohesiveness or a plan, or is there an undertone of the politics of 2015? What is going on with the PDP in this small election they are trying to?
No, I mean, what is going on to me is a clear indication that PDP, they're going to face some challenges in trying to at least bring up a candidate for 2015. My fear is that this internal rivalry and infighting going on within the party would not, you know, go out of proportion and cause some kind of disarray among the party members that will spiral out of control and, you know, lead Nigeria in the wrong direction. So I think it's an indication of the fact that PDP as a party, they have to look closely and be able to come as a party to bring up solutions to these problems.
Kole, is this a doom for the PDP? Is this a sign that 2015 that the party might now present a consensus candidate that could defeat the opposition?
Well, the drama you're watching has a script, and basically what parties like that do is that you pull out the joker. The joker is the police. The joker is the EFCC. The joker are all the coercive apparatus of state. You just bring them out, and a few folks that are not going to play ball, you just you call them in, right? The guy, and look, he's sitting atop enormous resources. He's in charge of it. He can give you a jet, right, to go and bury your father. Like you would give somebody a taxi. That is the amount of executive power our president has. What he's doing now is he's waiting and letting all his so-called enemies and all those who are against him play out their game. Then he will set the guys that should be set after them, he will set it after all of them. Didn't it happen with ACN and the National Congress of Nigeria? He did. What you just do is you draw them in. You give them what they want, and then that's it. It's the same thing. The way Jonathan works is that he pretends to be powerless. He pretends that he cannot use the power he has. Things are getting to a crisis point, and at that point, every of the other actors are getting worried. Then he would just use his joker. What is a joker? He gives them what they want. And everybody would go home and sleep. So my prediction is that Jonathan will get what he wants. He will still be the candidate. right? But the only way is if the opposition can, for God's sake, for once resist the fact that some oil block or something is all they need, and just be. Once they can have a coordinated front, there might be a change. But of course, how do I trust any one of these people to have a coordinated front?
Wow. Paul, before we leave this topic, I want to mention the fact that in the last 1 week, we've been hearing names, even people that we thought were dead. Jerry Ghana emerged, Ojomadekwe emerged, and people like Alexa Poeme, Ali, Amado Ali. These are candidates. These are people trying to decide the fate of the political party. Now, you would think when there's been this discussion about when will these political parties be bringing in fresh people, fresh ideas, and new ideas. Why is it that we keep going back to the same people? This is something that Ojomadeke said after the meeting they had yesterday. He was talking about why they couldn't come up with a consensus candidate, and he said the meeting did not come close to election, nomination, and the endorsement of any candidate. There was no deadlock or no gridlock. I mean, these are people who basically say things that has no meaning, just come out and just say anything, and the country continues, and we are watching. When would this end? What's going on?
It's a shame. It's a shame. It's just another indication of the fact that the political landscape in Nigeria is still inundated with all these old guys, and who, in my opinion, they are visionless. They have no direction. If I were to use an engineering term, I would say they are scalar quantities. They have magnitude, but they have no direction. So this will continue, because these guys, all they want is to be able to, maneuver the system, give the position to someone who is their friend, who has the most connection, not necessarily anyone that has a true vision for the party and for the nation. So we're going to see this infighting until they decide to give it to one clueless individual.
Kole, are you, I think Ojomadekwe must be somebody that during the time you were working in Nigeria. What do you think about having these same people all circulated again and again and doing the same thing, making the same kind of statements?
Rudolf, one of the issues that I think Sahara reporters must face is what are the possibilities of expanding the public sphere so that more actors can be visible and can be promoted. The issue we have is that the multiplicity of media in Nigeria has become a problem. Before, we had a centralized one. Once you showed your face on NTA or NTA beamed their attention on you, 50 million Nigerians saw you, they knew you. The fragmentation of the media now has brought it to a point in which a few thousand people are following you, they're listening to you, but there's no critical mass. The young people in this country, in Nigeria, have not had an opportunity to come together and find a way to establish themselves on the consciousness of the nation. They're still doing it as a collective and not as individuals that have faces. They're doing it under banners. And so, to displace the old people, you need to go back to the grassroots and start to work and do things and get all their full attention. Until that is done, the new actors will not be seen. We will still have to deal with the Ojomadekwe, the AGIP, any government in power, Jerry Ghana, and the thing is that these guys have paid their dues. They know how to mobilize, they know how to organize, but unfortunately, I don't know what is happening right now that we've not been able to get rid of these folks and replace them with something else. Look at 70-year-old men, look at Tony Anemi, somebody who should be sleeping and just getting papers and reading. He's going to NPA to be the chairman of the board. Hey, who will stand in their place? How could we create new actors to stand in the places of these people?
Well,
you would do that.
Well, there was somebody that was supposedly being promoted as one of the new actors, Charles Soludo, who came from the universities, became a central bank governor, was being promoted out there as a rising star. Last week, the EFCC picked him up to answer questions over bribery of an Australian company that he gave a contract to. So the question is, even the young ones, you know, they appear to be copying from the old.
Right.
But what do you think about the whole drama in the arrest and questioning of Charles Soludo? Does that have anything to do with any disagreements within the party, or is this a normal EFCC operational process?
No, I mean, Soludo, like you rightly said, I mean, if you look at Soludo's academic background, it's very pristine. It's a Nigerian that you can look at his record and say, all right, this is somebody that we can trust. You know, a particular ministry of a sovereign nation or a nation like Nigeria, and hopefully he should be able to do the right thing and run the nation based on his experience, his academic record over the years. But, you know, I'm shocked. I think, in my opinion, it would be too premature for us at this point to pass any judgment or to make any statement. I think we should wait and allow Soludo to have his day in court and allow him to go through the due process of the law.
Kole, what do you think about the arrest of Soludo?
But I think the update I read, I don't think I saw the headline. Soludo said he wasn't arrested.
Of course, they all said that they all make that statement that they were not arrested or they were not questioned.
Right.
But it wasn't just him. So,
well,
but it
Soludo
doesn't.
said he was. But let us look at the man himself, Charles.
Yeah.
And when you look at Charles, you should look at Ngozi Wala.
Yeah.
And then look at Fashola. You see, what connects them all is that these are technocrats. These are policy actors, those who understand the act of policies, but they're not very good in politics. Did you see the caricature Ngozi made of herself when she tried to organize a band of women during one of the PDP internal elections one time when she was trying to dance and get women? It didn't just fit, right?
Yeah.
These folks have not learned the act of politicking. Fashola does a good job in Lagos, right? He is the governor in charge of policy. Tinubu is the governor in charge of politics. He goes around to settle all the power, the political interests, because Fashola cannot do it. It takes the whole of the time. If you ever get into it, you will never get anything done. You're going to be meeting with all sorts of power blocks who have all sorts of interests. But somebody does it on his behalf so that he can face governance. Soludo, on the other hand, has not been able to show that he can organize at the world level, he can organize at the state level. You don't just, politics is not only, I mean, the president of America will tell you how he went through as an organizer. You got to dirty your hands. You can't just be alienated. You can't just be there. You can't just have all of this CV and things. People don't relate to that at that level. They want to see the human face. So that's what I say about the guy. Now about the EFCC thing. Maybe it's one of those jokers that will be played. This guy looks like a rising star. People think he probably might become a vice presidential candidate. Why don't we just quickly rattle him a little bit and see how he comes out of it? You know, or just shake his wallet a little so that some of the funding he could use to organize thugs at the local level can be taken away from him. We never can tell what the real situation is.
And Kole, it might even be that because next year there will be election for governorship in Anambra State, and he ran the last time, so he might be that he was planning to run again, and they decided to go after him. But in general,
yeah, it's all speculation. It's all speculation for now. We don't know exactly what it is. But I tell you, these folks should learn the basics. I don't see it. I don't see that organizing. I don't see, look know how many years Ghani was giving scholarship to indigent poor students? I mean, these are things you have to build a base. I don't know whether they're building that basis. Maybe they keep it out of the media, but I need to see these things that they understand. They understand the act of politicking. It's a very dirty thing. Dirty in the sense that you will stay up all night. You're going to be meeting all sorts of characters, and you cannot pretend as if they're not my people, because at the end of it, they are the ones in which you will say, my people have asked me to go and stand for the election.
But again, we have to say that this is not the first time we heard about this minting company in Australia that tried to do business in Nigeria with the central bank during the time of Charles Soludo. So maybe it's a progressive thing that the investigation led to this. But in general, how is the EFCC doing? I read one report recently where they were complaining that they couldn't do anything because their hands are tied. That politicians, they have a way of extending these court cases forever, while they go and announce that they are arresting small-time criminals. Meanwhile, the big guns cannot be arrested or tried. So what do you think?
I think a lot of Nigerians that I talk to and, reading feedback from Nigerians regarding EFCC is that some people see it as being selective. They think EFCC is used as a political tool to go after some other party members or people that do not agree with the ruling party or the presidency. But in my opinion, I think the reason EFCC was set up, if that mission statement or that vision is followed sincerely, I think I see EFCC as a good, program that can benefit Nigeria as a nation. My concern, which is the concern of a lot of Nigerians, is that for the most part, they've been selective in whom they prosecute and how they go about their prosecution. My hope is that, they will do the right thing for Nigeria.
Kole, the EFCC of Ribadu and the current EFCC, what's the difference, and which one has been more effective than the other?
Well, let's not talk about the effectiveness or efficiency for now.
I'm just saying, because some people now look at it and say, oh, those days were the golden days.
Right.
There was an intellectual pretense in the Ribadu EFCC. He surrounded himself with a bunch of intellectual radicals, progressives, people who had been in the trench.
Yeah.
They were people who understood the language, the progressive language. And with that, it was not just an operational thing. Remember that Lemode was his director of operations, meaning that once they decided something, they gave it to him and he got the foot soldiers to go and effect arrest. How much of the intellectual background or backgrounding it has? I really don't see him as a man like that. I see him as a very, very religious man. You could always see in his forehead that this is a guy who prays, 5 times a day. So his philosophy seems to be more of religion. I do not know whether he has, when he even speaks, you don't get that sense that he has a deep understanding of social engineering, and that this is a means of social engineering, and it has many levels. In fact, there was a time in which you know that the media face of the EFCC has also changed. That bulky guy who was there has been replaced by this small Wajori or whatever his name is. I think he was also in the Guardian at some point. When you see the way what he says, I think he almost distanced the Ribadu EFCC from this current EFCC. If I get my facts correct, there is this thing that we're not for bragado, we're not for this, but it's all a part of the social engineering. All what Ribadu did, it's almost to the books. You don't go after people because you will not get them. You create that kind of drama. But this one, I do not know what their strategy is. I do not know. I don't understand them. I don't understand this idea of wanting to be, kids love. Yes, they want to do things due process. They want to do it the right way. These guys who steal our money don't steal it the right way. I'll give it to them. They want due process. Yeah, we will get due process, but we will not get our due from the proceeds of whatever they do. That's my take. They're not winning. They're losing the game.
Now,
they're losing the story.
Yeah, Kole, let me ask you also along that line. Does it have anything to do with who is the president? In terms of the difference during Ribadu, you had Obasanjo, and now you have Jonathan. Does that the way they operate, or the energy, or the whatever the other side had? Do you think it has anything to do with who is running the country?
It's so unfortunate to judge both of them. Yes, it is true that the president, but I also think the president is like Lemode himself. They both have this weakling face. It's not that they're weaklings, but they carry around as if they're helpless, they're powerless people. You don't see the man, even when he talks, you don't get the bite. You don't get the urgency that the agency in which he is the leader of, the head of, has to do something 24/7. It's like he comes across as a typical civil servant. Of course, you know that our president comes across like that too. Very, very well laid back, But maybe, like you rightly said, there is a reflection on the EFCC from the president. But sometimes you can be given an opportunity like that and change things around. It is very possible. I mean, look at the strategy in which EFCC used. How they got to the various sectors to the point that Professor Wale Soyinka was hooting for them, Khalifa Amin was hooting for them. These were all strategies. They did, these were things they did. They met with all of these civil society leaders and explained to them to say this is a part of the broad-based social engineering of our society, and we want you to be a part of it. And they got a lot of people involved in it. So it wasn't, yes, Obasanjo was doing his thing, but they were also trying to even subvert Obasanjo himself.
Yeah.
Not that they succeeded, but they tried their best to make sure that the man doesn't get away with just using them.
Now, let's talk about Obasanjo, because this week again, of course, he has been acting as the only opposition in the country, opposing his own president. But this week, he took it a notch higher. He went on CNN, and he was critical of the president, especially the way he was handling the Boko Haram issue. What do you think about the role former President Obasanjo is playing in the country? Is it helpful, or does it hurt the chances of Jonathan?
Of course, Rudolf, I think Obasanjo is a spectacular character. And based on the peculiarity of his character, when he speaks, sometimes one has to listen. No, for sure. When Obasanjo starts throwing around analogies, which are sometimes referred to as arcane agricultural analogies of carrot and stick, those analogies are loaded with intricacies. But no, this time I agree with Obasanjo. I think what he said in that CNN interview, he was right. I think Jonathan has to listen. Although Obasanjo comes across in a very direct way, but I think Obasanjo has been there before. He has one or two experience that he should have an opinion that Jonathan might be able to learn from. You know what I'm saying? So what Obasanjo said was right. I think Nigeria will need a multifaceted, two-pronged approach to deal with Boko Haram insurgency. We cannot deal with it just from one perspective. We have to look, on the larger scale of things and deal with it from different angles.
Kole, Reuben Abati said Obasanjo is confused and unstable. So what do you say?
There is a security consultant, Max, I can't quite remember his last name, on channels, I think today, who said that Obasanjo himself should take responsibility for the creation of Boko Haram. I understand where he's coming from because of the ascendancy of the political Sharia law. That sort of has been marked as the beginning, the genesis of what gave birth to Boko Haram. But I listened to a lecture once by Professor Olukpano of Harvard, who had been following for years, right from the time of Sheikh Gumi. And I think if that security consultant had actually followed some of these things, you would see that this is a grand plan. This was not something that was just hurriedly put together. It's been something that a long strategic meeting and planning has gone into all of this. And what Olupano was saying was that if you go to read and track all those who became governors during Obasanjo's time and the various institutions they went in Saudi Arabia and who sponsored them there, right, that you begin to have an understanding of the long-term preparation that they have made to re-establish and re-Islamize Nigeria. If not Nigeria, then not Nigeria. And when they talk about Islamization, it's that they want to bring a particular brand of Islam to the northern Nigeria, right? If they would not be Westerners, then they should at least be something else. And what they have chosen is to say, we want to be good Muslims. And how would we be that if we do not keep to all the tenets of our faith? So they have made long plans to have, leaders have been trained and have been sponsored and they've gone to places. So Olupano's thing was that this is not just something that happened. And what you're seeing, the result of the Boko Haram, is not just something, it's not just an insurrection. It's being a plan, and the plan is working. Now, there are times when plans work, or when plans are established, and they get. Just like the Niger Delta thing took a different course. It always starts with very clean and clear objectives. So what Obasanjo was saying, or his body language, and I would like listeners and the viewers to understand how he got into that CNN interview. He did not go there to talk about Jonathan. He went there on the basis and under the belief that he was going to talk about the new foundation that he was about to start. He was trying to use that medium to appeal to his foreign sponsors to pay attention to this new thing Obasanjo, the foundation Obasanjo was going to start. But the CNN people had a different agenda entirely, and that was exactly what they focused upon. The first part of it talked about, Congo, talked about Rwanda, and they showed him as a statesman, not just a local lackey, not just somebody in Nigeria. They portrayed him that way. And then what they had in mind was to find out what is happening about Jonathan. And then he came up with this, to say that, look, he is not saying anything new. He has said it over and over again, that the way to go is to talk to those people. But what Obasanjo fails to understand is that even him, when he tried to talk to them, he did not even know who to speak with. And this guy said it clearly that they would have killed him. But I don't know what they considered, and they left him. And even Shehu, and I'm not sure Shehu is still in contact with them. If he's still in contact with them, I'm not sure he's acting as a mediator again. Nobody now, the whole waters of Boko Haram is morbid. Obasanjo saying that he should use the carrot and the stick. Who is he going to speak to? Right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And even if he was going to use the stick, how is he going to effectively use the stick?
You're right. You're right. That's a very important question. But there's no doubt that Obasanjo continues to more or less taunt, if you want to say, the presidency of Jonathan. Some days the report will be that they are at loggerhead. Some other days it will look as if there is an effort to resolve the differences. But whatever is going on, by 2015, it will all come out in the open. And what are your predictions? We have about 3 more minutes left. What are your view on what will happen, Paul?
Well, I think the game going on might be a political calculation between Jonathan and Obasanjo. There are folks who believe that they just put all of this in the public domain just for their own political reason. But in the end, I see Obasanjo, Jonathan, PDP folks, and all their cohort getting together and form a united union towards the 2015 election. I think they're gonna align towards one common goal.
Paul, what do you, sorry, Kole, what do you think?
It's so difficult to see, you know, the rain has not stopped, so I cannot see clearly now, you know, what would happen in 2015. Our case would not be any worse than what happened in Kenya, where the Forum for Restoration of Democracy forever has been coming together and they've never been able to put up somebody credible enough to challenge the establishment. I do not see how our Nigerian politicians will be able to do that as well. Would it be Buhari? Would all those guys line up behind Buhari? Or would that be a new face? Can we take a risk? These are the issues. And it's up for grabs, but I can see, if you ask me to look into a political crystal ball, I think Jonathan will still be the candidate in 2015. All he would be is that he would have weakened himself, he would have negotiated his strength and power, you know, away, because there's going to be a lot of consensus. He has to give a lot of things to the different power blocks, which is rather unfortunate if he's going to be. He cannot be that assert himself. The way his credentials don't show much, and he's aware of that. But he's going to tout some things, that the railway is working. What else is it? That
the power situation is improving. They are claiming. They are claiming that the power situation is improving. They are actually targeting, saying that they will have up to 10,000 megawatts by the end of the year. So, if that is true, maybe that's one of the things that may come up. But do you? Yeah,
they're going to use all of these statistics that are not very.
There's no way to confirm. But do you think that it's possible for the North to wait for another 4 years and say? Or is it that they won't have any option? They can't do anything about it, Kole?
There is no monolithic North. Let's get that out of the way. That monolithic North is long gone. You know, it's all. But yeah, for political background, you could say, oh, the North. There's no such thing as
of course, as
the North. The various actors there are looking after themselves. They're looking after their own selfish interests. And with these people who live in the northern part of Nigeria, be able to garner enough for themselves and their families and their friends? This is the question. It is not a case of whether wait for 4 years. No. In as much as you're not going to take away from them that which they would survive on, no. Once they are sure that there will be bread on the table, forget all this talk about the North waiting or not waiting. I'm not sure they have that these individuals who are there have this much interest in ruling anyway. No.
All right.
As much as they can get what they want. You know, this is my cynical perspective of these people. Even if they have power, what do they do with it? You know, or what can they do? What have they shown that they can do with it at the various levels they have been the leaders? So. I have no much faith, I don't even go that route to say that it's a question of waiting. What are they waiting for? What should they wait for?
Well, Paul, this is the beginning of the year, and we are still looking forward to what 2013 will give. What do you predict? What do you see in the Nigerian scene, political scene? You know, we have like 30 seconds left.
Well, I don't want to be a prophet of doom, but I just hope that Jonathan would continue to do what is best for Nigeria. I like his transformational agenda, but I think well, I've read part of it, but what I don't see is what he does every day does not actually align with his transformational agenda. So my call for Jonathan in 2013 It's not to start preparing for election, the 2015 election, is to start delivering on his promises.
Kole, one last question. I don't know if you've gone to Aso Rock to eat with the president, but Reuben told us this week that, last week that, oh, I think it was this week, that most Nigerians, they eat better food than the president. So are you concerned about how Reuben is doing his job?
When you ask me about a lawyer and a theater practitioner, it's a question of legalized theatrics, if you like to put it that way. You can make your clowning in a legal way. I guess Reuben has found his voice finally to say that Nigeria is a stage, he's a player, he's acting, and his words, just like the words of Nollywood actors, do not carry much weight. People forget it very quickly, and then we go on. Who cares, what he says? Listen carefully to what he said, that most Nigerians eat better food than the president. What he's asking you as a lawyer is, compared to what? There are times when he says all of these things and he wears his legal cap. People forget that he's a trained lawyer, and he says all of these things, wanting to have a debate. What does it mean to have food? Better, meaning, what he's saying is that most Nigerians eat what they want to eat. In this case, the president is provided by the state. It's our money that provides food for him. He's not talking about the richness of it. He's just saying that the man doesn't eat what he wants to eat. It is what the catering department in Aso Rock gives him to eat. Now, he wants you to come and debate with him that is it content of the food? Is it the richness of the food that makes it better? So theater practitioners have a way. They just think that life is some kind of play. So that's what Reuben is doing. He's found the fact that the more you speak, no matter what you say, just say something. Nigerians would listen, they would debate, and they would never write minutes of the last meeting to say, well, this was the last thing we said, let's continue from there. He's just going to start a new thing. So that's the way he's just suddenly found now that instead of keep quiet and say nothing, so that people still think that he's an intelligent man, he should just say anything. Because at the end of his term, how many press advisors or special advisors do you remember in Nigeria? Do they do anything spectacular? No. They just talk. And talk is cheap. And that's what the presidency wants. Let's just distract them, say things, do the Bushisms, make errors and let people go after the errors, so that the substantial thing, nobody faces it.
Yeah.
So I guess, how would I think of Reuben and his job? I would just think he's one of the characters in the Wale Soyinka play.
Thank you so much, Kole.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming, and thank you, Paul, for coming to
Thank you,
Sahara
Rudolf.
TV.
It's a pleasure.
Until next week, we'll be back on the round table, but stay tuned. We are still going to give you some of our shows like Dr. Damages and Keeping It Real. And today, we have special shows for you. I hope you stay and watch. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you're not informed,
If you don't know where you come from, you will never find where you're going.
When Nigeria is working, we will all know.
PDP and us are diametrically opposed.
oh yeah, SaharaTV, let them be the TV, the best TV, information, education, inspiration. SaharaTV,
let me die. I am from SaharaTV. I'd like to ask you a few questions.
information. education.